good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, people. Hello, and thank you for joining me live today or listening back to this on the Branding for Breweries podcast. Yes, that's right. We are no longer just running these things live and me desperately attempting to trim something and throw it up on social media. We have a podcast now. So jump onto Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, type in Branding for Breweries, and you will get to listen to the dulcet tones of your good friend, Tim, the Brand Weaver, for as long as you like. Now that's out the way. My name is Tim. I'm the owner of the Brand Weaver. I go by Branding for Breweries on Instagram, and I am a branding consultant, strategist, and designer working with breweries, helping them to tell their story, stand out, stand up, and be known. And today, I am joined by Taproom specialist, Dan Hornbrook. Everyone, welcome Dan to the stage. Hey, Dan.
What's going on, Tim? How you doing, buddy?
I am super funky fresh, my man, and I am mega excited to be conversing with you today, bud. So, Dan, let's get stuck into things. For people who don't know who you are, what you do, why on earth I'm talking to you, man, can you give us a bit of background, please?
Yeah, totally. So, started really my career. I'm gonna call it the adult beverage segment, right? All the alcohol stuff. Started in 2010 and worked in sales and marketing, doing off-premise stuff, and really quickly saw that as people started getting in and presenting to us and telling us about their brands and showing us about their products, I said, hey, I want to be that person up there presenting and talking about representing one single brand versus going out and selling a whole book of stuff. And from there, I saw that path of where I wanted to go. And my next step was to get some on-premise experience, go learn how the products were sold into the bars and restaurants and all that. And in 2015, I jumped on with a beer distributor here in Indiana. And not only did I fall in love with the on-premise, but I also fell in love with craft beer and the community that comes along with that craft beer. And quickly from there, was able to jump on with a regional brewery as they expanded their markets up into Indiana, where I live. And I managed a couple states for them for quite a few years. And just really, again, fell in love with the sales and marketing side of things and understanding how people connect with brands and how they continue to connect with them, outside of the walls, outside of your tap room. But how do they continue to be engaged with them on a digital front? And as that world started growing too, with social media. And my next stop along the line was with a technology company where we had some really cool technology applications, and one of them was a brewery experience finder. And so I really got to dive into that and understand consumer habits and understand what were driving them to different breweries, what was the brewery marketing that really landed a connection with that customer that had them come into their doors, and some really cool data behind all that stuff. And it was just a really cool experience to really get to understand how consumers, how their habits were, and how they were engaging with craft breweries. But I've had just a plethora of experience talking to different breweries and working with them and going out and just being a part of the industry that I love so much. So that's kind of my background and how I'm here.
Fantastic, man. And you've gone through the ringer, like you've worked your way through all the different aspects of brewery life. And of course, today we're talking about the taproom experiential piece. And from talking to loads of other people, when a brewery gets into the position of marketing itself, it's got a couple of avenues. Of course, it's got digital marketing, it's got the social media side of things, it's got the more sales directed trade stuff. But if you're trying to attract that local market, that really dedicated consumer, then the tap room has got to be where it's at, right?
100%.
Why? What to you makes a great tap room experience?
Yeah, I think you kind of just led into there, but I think the first part of that is being a part of your community, right? Like you want to serve that kind of drop a circle right outside of your around your brewery. Like you want to make sure that you're welcoming to that environment, authentically a part of that community too. So how are you supporting those peoples and those groups around you? I think that's not a part of the tap room experience. I think that's critical to having a great tap room, period, with a great community to support you. But a great tap room experience is really one, if I go into one, right, I think it starts before you go into the doors, right? It goes to, okay, here's me and my friends, we want to go have a great experience. Where are you going to go first, Tim, to go looking for that experience? It's going to be Instagram, it's going to be Google, it's going to be wherever you're, searching for a local business, directory, uh, per se. You go there and you say, "Oh, that one has food. Okay, I want to go there." Or, "Oh, that one has a patio. It's a beautiful day. I want to go there." That starts the expectation of like, here's the experience that we're about to have. And so once you get to that taproom experience, are they following through with that expectation? Was it false advertising to them? Oh yeah, well, we only have food on Fridays and Saturdays. We just have this little food truck out front during the week. Well, that's not what they expected. And unfortunately, that can cause for a lot of bad reviews, bad expectations, and it's some kind of psychological law too. It's called expectation violation theory or something like that. But that's really where it starts in my mind. Is like, does the cover doesn't match what's inside the book? When you start
Mhm.
getting when people start searching for those experiences. So, but once you get inside, does it meet or exceed those expectations? Does your staff deliver a high quality experience? I think anybody that runs a tap room should know this, and they probably do know this. But when consumers are going into these tap rooms, they're expecting a little education. Your level of knowledge is going to have to be a little bit taller than the pub next door. Like, they come in there, they want to learn something. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. Like, they could just learn something about your beer and how you make it. And you're not, teaching them anything that's going to be in the dictionary. So it doesn't have to be, hard facts by all means. But they want to learn something, they want to experience something new. And I think as long as that you can meet or exceed that just by a little bit, you're winning in my mind.
Wow. Okay, there is already so much to unpack on that then. So let's take this down bit by bit. So we talk about
Yeah.
like setting the expectation, meeting the expectation, even before you've kind of really sat down and enjoyed the experience. And then the experience itself, where you have the education and there's all the other aspects, of course, the quality of product, bits and bobs, things, events that might be going on around it. So let's start with the whole setting expectations, because
Yep.
I'd imagine as a brewer, I'm going, oh, come on, man, is it not just enough to like brew 7 great beers and make it available on a bar? Like, is that enough? Am I going to get away with that these days, Dan?
Used to be, not anymore. There's so many options, right? And I think that the liquid quality hasn't gone away. If anything, it's gone up. You can't make a bad beer anymore, else you're really going to get, you're going to get found out about real quick,
Mhm.
because there's so many great options nowadays. Um, but there's also, for us, you can throw a stone and almost hit a brewery around here, a brewery tap room. So, what makes yours different? What is going to draw yours in? And it's no longer you're just attracting, the guys that really like the beers, but it's also the families. It's the grandmas and the grandpas who are going there for the birthday party. Like, there's just so much more to be had nowadays, and the bar's been raised, unfortunately, and fortunately by me. I like these great experiences, but it just does take more effort, and it does take more energy to provide such an experience than just brewing great beer.
Okay, fine. I can't get away with 7 beers. Okay, well, I've got to have 7 good beers, but like, where else do I need to be focusing? Like, you talk about you've got to be the place for the family to come at the weekend, or grandma celebrating her birthday. Like, do I really, as a brewery owner, have to have a tap room that appeals to everyone, or can I have like a niche or a group of people and then ride that for a while?
I think it goes to, I think, a little bit of localization. If you can get away, for example, let's just talk kid friendly. Um, there's, I know there's a diverse community in the craft brewers world, especially over here in the States. They they're either on board for kid friendly or they're totally against it. And like,
Mhm.
why are you bringing kids into a brewery? This is a drinking establishment, this and that. I don't know. You guys are different over the pond over there. You guys, we were just talking about that. You grew up in a pub, so kids are different over there, I guess, raised up. But here, it, you know, it becomes a lot more responsibility. Things can get broke. Kids can be destructive sometimes. It can just get out of hand. But I think there's a responsible way to do it as well. If you can live in that world and your community will support you in a way that you don't need to bring in kids and you're still running you still have a successful revenue, limit that you got, sure, go ahead and do that niche. There's a couple restaurants I go to that are not kid friendly, and I go there because of that at times. Now, trust me, I go out more with my family than I don't go out with my family, so that's going to limit my ability to go visit there. But I think you can live in that world if your community will support it. But I think you just have to look around and say, what is my community needing? Is it a
Mm,
family establishment? This is my example. Is it, I think another big one nowadays is food. you know, do you have the ability to put a kitchen or a small grill in your tap room? If you don't, well, how are you supporting that? Are you working with a partner restaurant down the street that you can bring food in? Do you have food trucks? I think so. It's a little bit of your ability to do it, but also like how are you making sure that some of those options are also available, that you're
mm,
not just blocking everything off. Like either you come for this limited experience or you get nothing at all, right?
wow.
So it's interesting. I wish I had a stronger answer for either to say yes or no, but I think it just is. It's a little bit localized in a way.
I think that makes a lot of sense, man, and it's fine. We don't need like strong yes or no's because that's when we get blamed for things and it all goes
That's
wrong.
right. That's it.
But if you take the idea of like what does the community need, like I understand that, and so it's another way like looking at it. If you're gonna be opening a tap room or if you're trying to improve your tap room, doing a little bit of research around the local area, what's going on, where are the gaps right now, and equally what's popular. Would you say that's a good way to then inform your choices? Like case in point, maybe there's no good Mexican food in the local town, and you're like, right, I know someone who's got a wagon. They're going to come in on a Friday and Saturday and deliver some great Mexican food. Is that the rate that people should go down?
100%. I think so. And I think you also look at you can dig a lot into the demographics and, is there a Hispanic, population in your group that no one's really answering to there? Um, what is the demographics? Is it younger? Is it older? Lean into those. I don't know exactly where you can go get those stats, but it does mean a lot when you can dig into the demographics, and see what just is around your community and maybe just outside of that circle too. How do you get those people in there as well? But that's where I would start for sure. I think it's incredibly smart if you're going to be, to your point, either opening a new one or expanding and seeing which direction you want to go. Know who's all in your community 100%, and
Mm,
that'll answer a lot of things. What is the gaps? Here locally we have these Facebook pages for like our local township, and there's a lot of chatter that goes on, and there's a lot of local support for the businesses and everything. And I know we just had a coffee shop open up recently, and people were just dying for a coffee shop locally. And I mean, the Starbucks. There's one maybe 2 miles away, but they wanted a local coffee shop where they could kind of connect, I think, in an authentic way, and also have like someplace to go and just do work. There's so much remote
mm,
work done nowadays. So they wanted someplace that they knew they were supporting local and they knew that they were authentically connecting with a business in their community. So and I think that it's parity for breweries. People are looking for those connections and to go to those places.
mm. Yeah, I think, and I suppose that example there of like, someone people wanted a place where there's good coffee, but it's not a big chain. They wanted a place that they could work. In some circumstances, that could be your tap room. You
Yeah.
could have a great coffee machine, and before I don't know 4 p.m. you could say, yeah, you can hot desk it. There's free Wi-Fi. We'll give you free refills. When you get past 2 o'clock, you get a pint, whatever it is. So I think it's really important to bear in mind that I suppose just because you've got a tap room, you don't just serve beer. It becomes a flexible place, right?
Yeah, I think, for us over here in the States, like I know the breweries here, their offerings have been expanding like crazy over the past, we'll call it, well, let's say post COVID, right? And it's just driving innovation out of these brewers, which is great. Um, but I think to what you said, which was a great, I wish you need to snippet that, like have a coffee shop in the morning time so you can go there and work, and then maybe after 2 p.m. if they've had a coffee, they can trade that coffee in for half off a pint or whatever it is,
Mm,
like some kind of special to keep them there all day, but like rewards you for that hard day's work there in the shop. But yeah, having just a spread of different offerings is key nowadays because you don't know who's coming in. And
mm,
like I said earlier, we there was one brewery that we worked with, and they were getting baby showers and, like I said, grandma and grandpas were coming to these things. So how are you serving them? They sold a lemonade, a house-made lemonade. They sold for like $5 a pint, which the cost on that thing was minimal.
Mm.
They had non-alcoholic like mocktails. So if you wanted to be a part of the party, but you weren't drinking alcohol, you had the opportunity to be you know, part of the party. You have something in your hand, which I'm a big fan of. If you look like a part of the party, you feel a part of the party.
Yeah,
But also, the kombuchas of the world. I don't know if that's big over there.
it's
It's just
getting
been
there. We're
it's
getting
been
there.
blowing up here. But just different offerings, so you do have something for people when they do come in,
Mm.
because just there's a diverse bunch of people coming into breweries nowadays, and that's a good thing.
100%. Okay, so we've established like, right, we've got, I'll go back to my example. I've got 7 good beers. Now I've got some good food, and it's like the food or it's the complementary consumables that I know my community want, my target market want. What about the icing on the cake? So when we talk about events, like, okay, now I'm going to get someone with an acoustic guitar in and they can sing for 45 minutes about how their boyfriends dumped them. Or I've got a mate who does unicycling. He can juggle fire. Like, do I have to then go that extra mile to get that next level of thing going on in the tap room as well? Or can I just get away now with food and drinks?
You got to have some events, right? You got to bring some people
Oh,
in. You just mentioned the juggling too. Just south of Indiana, Kentucky, there is a brewery it was started by a guy who was a part of the circus, and he does regular circus shows inside the brewery, which is really
oh,
fascinating.
oh,
So you talk
that's
about experience, but now trust me, I know nothing about a circus. So if I'm running a tap room, that is not my cup of tea that I'm going down. So don't try to be somebody who you're not, right? I think
mm,
that's the key takeaway there is like, who is your brand? What is it about? Like, are you a outdoor lifestyle hiking kind of brand, and that's where you want people enjoying your product, and that's kind of the branding you go with? And then all of a sudden you're wanting to bring everybody indoors and do like I don't know, like art paintings and things like that.
mm.
Like go and like have a run club and start and stop at your brewery. Like it's part of your brand. Those That's a fun event. Get the community involved in different ways. I think any way you can be one consistent with your events, because events don't always take off on the first day.
Mm.
So you have to be clear and communicate to the online presence too, which I think is key, is making sure you have a calendar somewhere and it's up to date all the time. Like you should make sure that's up to date daily. And if something changes, send out an email, send out a text. Make sure communication is top of line with your customers, however you communicate with them. Um, but the events, I think consistency. I saw something the other day too, Tim. One of our local breweries. It was we're talking about kids just a minute ago, but they advertised kids event for their brewery, and they had some kind of like arts and crafts for the kids, and they promoted it like, let us keep your kids busy while mom and dad enjoy a pint and food, right? And it's
Nice.
like, and then once they're done with the arts and crafts, we have board games here all the time, so you can play board games with your kids and finish off the night, whatever it is.
Mm.
I go into that brewery, and they always have board games. They're not adding anything to no cost addition to what they're doing. For whatever the arts and crafts is, I don't know what it is. It looked like some like fancy wire tie stuff that they can mold into something. I don't know, make stick figures or whatever. So that can't cost too much for these kids to do it. But I think that it was interesting. But they created a reason to market themselves. They created an experience that is unique, because I've not seen another brewery do it here locally.
Mm.
But it provides that click in my head, like, hey, me and the wife want to get out. Of course, we want to, we don't want to ditch the kids on to grandma and grandpa all the time. Why don't we take them with us? They said they'll keep them busy with an arts and crafts. I can maybe get a pint or two, enjoyed while they're doing that. And then we get to have a little family fun afterwards. Like, that's easy. And I don't, again, the cost to that is very minimal, is what I would have to guess. But I think that's another thing too, is just making sure, when you are marketing your events, it's not just the big, you know, 2 hour set from the local guy that plays acoustic, right? Make it engaging. Like it doesn't have to be a band all the time, and make it the run club. Make it the hey, we're having a brunch special. Just something unique, one off
Mm.
that's going to drive a bit of that limited offering. That hey, we got to go because it's only going to happen this one time. It doesn't always have to be those big events. It can be those, but I think consistency and clear communication. Make sure you get it out far enough too, so people can make plans. I have some things on when people make plans down the road here, but
We'll
that's
get
where I'm
there.
at for now.
We'll get
Yeah,
there. I think, like, so the point that you made about kind of the childcare, and then you can play games and stuff. That to me, that sounds like a brewery who's gone. We can see that or maybe we've even had people say, "Oh, we'd love to spend more time here, but we got to get back to the kids." Or they've done their local
yeah,
research and they know that they've got a lot of small families or expanding families moving into the area. So they've spotted that gap and they've smashed it. And I should imagine it's doing really, really well for them. And then coming back to your comment about knowing the brand or knowing the kind of brewery that you are, and you use like the outdoorsy type. Two really important things that I take away from that is go, yeah, actually, I suppose to create events, it doesn't always have to be directly in the tap room. It's associated with the tap room or the brewery itself. And also you talk about diversity. So you have this range. And I've spoken to people about this before where it's like, okay, well, we're an outdoorsy kind of brewery, so we're going to put a run club on. It's like, yeah, that's good. And it communicates what your brand is, but that's attracting one particular generational band, I suppose, or maybe two, but maybe your boomers who are getting on a little bit, maybe they don't want to, or an older generation. So what else can you do, or what different event that still screams outdoorsy, but then attracts a different generation as well? And I think if a brewery starts to go, right, with this kind of brewery, this is the event that will attract that generation, then that generation, then that generation. It's a great way to get a diverse range of event and experience ideas together. Like, would you agree with that?
yeah. I would. I think something that also be creative in ways that you can attract. Me and the wife, we do like the local 5Ks here, and you go and it's a different spot around town, and they have the routes, but they also have, I think it's called the non 5K. And so at the end of the 5K, you get 2 drink tickets, right? It's part of the package. So you get to have a beer, a couple beers afterwards after you're done running, and you can have that time to hang with your friends and all that. But they also have the non 5K too. So it's the people that just want to be a part of the party. It's a cheaper price, but they still get the drink tickets, and they literally just, I think, go to the starting line and then they walk back to the beverage area and they start drinking, right? Like just be creative and have fun with it. Like that not everybody's going to go run, but how can you make
Mm.
it engaging? Like, I don't know, be a welcoming crew. So have somebody hold the tape up when people are coming through and they can have a beer in their hand helping out, whatever it is. But be creative about it. And I think that you're right. Like also look for different segments. Like, okay, we have this, age group that's really connecting with this event. How do we get this other Gen Z is a big one, right? Like, how do I connect with Gen Z? They roll as groups, they roll last minute. There's a bunch of things about them that we're learning as they become, legal drinkers and things like that. But you're right. Like, kind of just look around and see where your gaps are and see how you can kind of fulfill those and talk to the people in your tap room. So if you do see someone in that range, go talk to them. Like, how can I get more of your friends in here? What are they into?
Mm.
What do you guys like to do? Where are you going after here with your friends? What do you guys do? Like, go ask those questions. I promise you that they will answer you, and it'll give you some great ideas.
Dude, we're going to step away from this eventually, but there is still so much to talk about, and I worry that we're just going to absolutely fleece an hour's worth of time. But we'll come back again. We'll have another chat.
Let's
So
do it.
earlier on in our conversation, we talked about setting the expectation, meeting that expectation. We've ticked off the idea of the beers and drinks and food that you serve and the kind of the event stuff, but we haven't really touched too much on the staffing side of things, right? Those people who are in the tap room who are hopefully providing that education. I've spoken to breweries, and whilst it is a skilled job, like when done correctly, they struggle to find those kinds of people who will work the bar shift and work the tap room. Like, what's your experience, and what are the things that breweries need to be looking for when recruiting to deliver a great, kind of service level, I suppose?
Yeah, I think anybody that's hiring anybody um, wants somebody with direct experience. So, oh, so they're looking for a job. Well, they already bartended or they already, served over here in this world. I'm not saying that's the wrong way to look at it, but I think you have to look outside of the box sometimes. What is their energy? What is you know, ask them, like, what do you want to do in this? Like, do you want to learn more? Do you want to become a brewer? Do you want to get into sales? Do you want to get into marketing? Like, what are the things that you want to do? Why are you applying for this job at a brewery? Is it because you just like drinking beer and you want to be a part of it? Like, that's cool too. Like, I'll take people like that. Um, but I think you have to have people that have energy and they want to learn, because those who want to learn, I think, also want to teach. I think I'm no college professor here, but I think there's probably a strong correlation there. Those who want to learn want to teach too.
Mhm.
And I think if you can identify those people, take care of them. Um, b- I mean, really take care of them, because if you can find those few rock stars, they can set the tone for the whole environment and the whole team. It's just like any sports team. If you have a couple bad bugs on that team, it can bring down a championship level team into, a bad season. And so I think look for those unique abilities. Um, I would always strive to look for someone who is eager to learn, um, who shows the ability that they have good energy. You want somebody to be excited when someone walks in the door. They want it
Mm.
like, I want to be excited that you're welcoming me into your four walls here. Um, and I don't know, just kind of think outside of the box. And I think education is first and foremost, and that's why I'm leaning into people that want to learn. Make sure you have a good, or at least a solid foundation for education program in your brewery. And I'm not saying you have to, send them to get their level 2, level 3 cicerones or whatever certifications are relevant. Like, that's not needed, but like, they want to learn about the products. And I even think, for us over in the States, you can hire, people under 21 to be serving. So they can't really even try the product. Well, you
Mhm.
don't have to try the product to know the product. Like, make sure you're setting them up for success too. Um, give them flavor notes of these products. Give them, if you have a food program, like, hey, here's what this pairs well with. This is what our chef says. The chef doesn't have to say it. Like, let's just make it a standard, right? Like,
Mhm.
someone on the other side of that doesn't know that the chef didn't really say this IPA pairs well with this, gorgonzola burger, whatever. Uh, have a little fun with it, but make sure that you're giving them the tools and the continued learning ability to grow and to offer, to make sure that experience between the server, the staff, and the consumer is constantly kind of growing. It doesn't have to jump.
Mhm.
Just make sure it's slowly growing and hold them accountable. And I think, key is to always celebrate them when you do see something positive. Make sure you celebrate them, and not just in private. And I'm not saying gloat about it against, like, hey, Billy really did a great job today. Where the hell else were you guys?
You guys
Not like that,
suck.
but like,
We
hey,
need mobility.
right, right. So don't do that, but make sure that you're making sure that people understand, like, this is the goal of what we're trying to achieve here, and I'm with it, and I'm here to support you all. Let me know. Hey, Billy, how did you achieve this goal today? Like, let us all know so we can all learn from it. And you're off and running in my mind.
Dude. And coming back to that point about giving them the tools, and you talked about like tasting notes or pairing things. One thing I've spoken to people about is that those things should be to hand anyway. Like, if you're going to print a can, like, you want to include that great stuff on the back of the can because it just expands on the story of the beer anyway. So you do it once
100%.
and it goes everywhere, and it just makes, like you say, this cohesive experience. So coming back to your point that maybe they didn't find the tap room on TripAdvisor or Instagram, like they picked up a can and they read about, like they tasted it, they liked it. And it's like, oh, the tap room's like 30 minutes down the road. I'll go and check it out. And then they get told the same thing they've read on the back of the can. Like, that is like top quality experience in my mind, right? Like, it's just cohesion all the way.
I want to lean into that. Tim, I'm glad you mentioned this to your folks. Flavor notes are the most easiest thing to resonate with. And I think that as because there are still, I think the craft community has almost made the entry point so tall. Some of Gen Z is intimidated by like trying, even like wanting to go. They're like, oh, you don't know what a IPA is with these kind of hops, and you don't know what the flavor notes are going to be.
Mm,
Young Gen Zer, like, what are you doing even trying this stuff? You should just go out and stick to the cheap beer, whatever it is. And
mm,
I think that like when you do bring and you open your arms to welcoming them and saying, hey, like you are new to this, but like, you know, do you like my favorite flavor notes vanilla? Anything with vanilla, I'm trying. And so I think that that resonates with a lot of people too. It's like for those who don't like beer, like maybe try a sour and like it's a raspberry flavor note with like stone fruit or kiwi, whatever. Like people are going to connect with those flavor notes a lot more than understanding what like a sour is like. Oh, sour, like my cheeks are going to be puckering. Well, yeah, sometimes sours do that, but there's
mm.
also some pretty light sours. There's some fruited sours that are really just well balanced. So I'm glad you pitched that, and I'm glad you tell everybody that. But just throw 3 or 4 flavor notes on your freaking can or on your description, your product descriptions, because people will connect with that, and it will encourage them to go a little bit farther than their comfort zone, and that will help them grow into bigger craft fans.
There we go. Pointers around language and extra bits and bobs as well. And even had someone say, hot take, flavor notes are a way better anchor than beer styles. Nice one.
Love it.
See? Good job, Dan. Okay, dude. So earlier on, you said the sexy word data. I love data because data suggests proof, and more than one person said it, right? So, in your vast experience, let's talk about some good stats that can help our brewery owners and their tap rooms function to their best. We talked, offline about the idea of like the best times to promote things, opening events and stuff. But just rain down on us all that lovely data goodness. What can you share with us?
Yeah, so earlier what I was gonna jump into was, promoting your events. When should you promote it? When are people starting to search is where really the data that I have. Prior to 2020, people were really starting to make their plans early in the week for the weekend. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, you should probably have your events up and scheduled for the weekend. And that's fine. There was also a little bit probably limited, breweries out there, so the options were a little less to jump into. I think that any you should have all your events by Monday for sure. But the shift that has happened, and I think this is, I don't know if it's been a part of COVID, Tim. I'd like to probably hear some of your opinion on this, but people have shifted from that Tuesday, Wednesday planning point to now we're planning Thursday for Thursday night. We're planning Friday for Friday night,
Mm,
Saturday, and even before, like we didn't even see much people engaging on Sundays because they already had that planned out. So people weren't getting on the apps and searching. They knew where they were going already. But now people are searching Sunday morning to where they're going for Sunday afternoon. And so that was a big shift that we saw, and it's interesting. I don't know. I would love to hear your take if you've seen anything, maybe even in your personal life, if you're starting to plan more from the kind of the day of perspective.
do you know what? I do both, which doesn't help the situation, but it does depend on who I'm with and who I'm planning with. So if it's a family related thing, and we're like, oh, we've got a Sunday. What should we do? Like, what's on today that we could go and do? Versus like if it's a group of friends and I don't get to see this group of friends that often, like every month, every 2 months, then we're going to plan an event. It's like, oh, I've heard about this cool tap room. Everyone, you've got to secure the Saturday off because we've got to make sure that the kids and everyone else is happy and catered for. So I think from my perspective, it depends who and what I'm doing. But I think a lot to do with the consumer and where they are in their life and what they've got going on will depend on where they're planning and what they're doing, right?
So I love it. So both sides of the coin for you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that goes into the answer is, as a brewery, when should I be getting my events out there? I think, for the larger events, you should have a monthly calendar. If you're not planning a larger event and you don't have a month ahead of time, you're limiting kind of the reach, I think. And I think it's going to take consistent marketing, leading up to that event. So give yourself 4 weeks to really plan that event. And I think, for any of those, like, hey, we just got the board games tonight, or we got uh, the trivia night. It's every Wednesday. It's every Tuesday. and you can see that on the calendar and it's consistent, because then you know, hey, what are we doing tonight? We got a night free, grandma took the kids. What are we gonna do? Hey, let's go just do the trivia. Brand Weaver's Brewery always has it on Wednesday night. It's Wednesday night. I know they're gonna be there. It's gonna be consistent. It's gonna be a party. It's us, right? So I think it goes into both, but I think that no matter what, having a consistent calendar and making sure for those bigger events, the ones with maybe if you're bringing in a band, or if you're bringing in a food truck party, whatever it is you're doing, make sure you give yourself about a month, I think, to really market that thing. And I think it starts with, one, two, three posts that, fourth week out, and maybe goes to 3, 4 posts that third week out. You just keep getting heavier and heavier. And I think there's so many tools out there nowadays. And Tim, you might have some in your back pocket that help you with social media marketing. But I think that if you can get that set and scheduled, and it doesn't have to be fancy, but also please don't just take a picture of, words, put a human in the video, something like that. Like, let's have fun a little bit, get your staff involved. I promise you probably have someone on your staff that's just dying to get in front of a camera. It's probably the most talkative one out of the whole staff. Get them in front of a camera and get some video content, have some fun, get your brewers involved with it, and just get that planned out so you don't even have to think about it as you're planning it. Just get it scheduled, set it, and forget it, and let it go and get it marketed.
Yeah, I love that. And I think also the idea of having a calendar on the website, that's your gospel. That's the one point of truth. But from that, then you feed it out to your other channels, right? So you'd go in your weekly email newsletter, you like events coming up this week, and then even maybe down on your socials, you might post about it, but then you might use your story aspect of Instagram versus a post to go, this is on today, or this is on tomorrow. Actually, Phantom Brewery and Reading do that fantastically on their Instagram channel. Shout out.
Do you work with some teams? I'm sure they're social media teams, and they probably ask you like, I have to post so much per week, per month. Is that what you're telling me? Well, what do I post? They probably ask you all the time, like, what do I post?
Yeah.
And it again, like, this is, I think it makes it easy when you can hit, like, just throw your calendar out there and make it fun. Like, here's our weekly, playbook for the week. Here's our events. Like, there is stuff to be posted. Just what is going on in your tap room, and do it consistent, because your one video is not going to touch every one of your fans, right? So that's why you have to do it again and maybe again, and do it in unique ways, but have fun with it. Be authentic to who your brand is. But I promise you, there's plenty to post about.
There is, but equally on the same argument, like, don't just post about events. It's got to be a really wide range.
Yeah.
And it's part of the 5P approach that I posted on Instagram about it a while ago. People can find it. But yeah, the event thing's super important, and it's also got to be balanced out with all the other great stuff that your brewery does.
Totally.
Okay. Sharing events, marketing events, keep on pushing it, setting up the events, what makes a great taproom experience. That's all the good stuff, Dan. Let's talk about the pitfalls though, right? Like, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen some brewery tap rooms do? And you don't have to say any names, but like, what do people need to avoid if they're thinking about upgrading their tap room experience?
Just, I'll say the first one, and I don't want to say mistakes, because I know what you mean. I think a lot of people authentically try, and I think sometimes they get scared of trying something because there's gonna be failure there on the other end of it, right? But I think if you wrap your arms around your team and you listen to your team too, hey, bring everybody together. Let's come up with some good ideas of like, what can make this tap room experience work. Listen to your staff, like, bring them together, let them help you. You're a part of this all. Um, one is, I'd say mistake is just literally not trying to do anything different and expecting the same results, right? Like, I've seen plenty of breweries just like, this is who we are. We're not going to change anything. And unfortunately, a lot of those breweries are starting to go out of business because they're not willing to adapt. The food thing has been big in the US. Like, if you don't have food, like, you are struggling. If you don't have a food option, like, you got to figure it out. You got to learn to evolve. And as long as you're trying to evolve and you're showing that to to the community, I think they'll wrap their arms around you. But be a little bit bold. There's different ways to get it without purchasing a whole industrial sized kitchen, just for food, for an example. I think we mentioned it, not helping their staff in ways that make them better brand extensions, I guess, for the brewery. Let them engage with the brewer. Sometimes I know brewers don't want to be engaged with the front of house. They're just back of house. They love doing what they're doing, but try to get that staff involved. Like, talk about how the beer was made. What was the influence for the brewer to make this and that. But really just try to make sure everybody's coming together as one team. My big bone to pick with any staff that is serving beer, and especially if you have food. And I know this can be hard. There's different ways that can make this difficult, but if you get someone a beer or a beverage and they got food, if you don't ask for that second beverage before that food gets out there, the likelihood of you getting that second beer or that third beer, it just drops drastically because they start getting their belly full with the food and they're like, no, I think I'll pass. But it limits, $6-7 on your bill, whatever your price of your pint is. Multiply that by how many ever. I mean, the tips, whatever else comes off that bill. But that is the other one, is just not asking for the second beverage before the food comes out. I'm going to ride on that until I die. That's one of my big sticking points for anybody. Ask for that second beverage before the food comes out, because you will get it very often. And I'm not saying make the food super late, but make sure you're getting the question. And then at the end of it is, what are the takeaways? Make sure your staff is asking for, hey, do you guys want to-go beer? I saw you had 2 of these, Pilsners. We got a growler. Like, can I get one of those to go for you? Or we got a 4-pack. Let me get a 4-pack to go for you. Like, asking for that to-go beer. How do they take that experience from those 4 walls and shift it to their home? Or, just be creative with ways. And I think, just encouraging your staff to upsell in a way. Like, there's nothing crazy about that. You want to bring in more revenue into the operation. So, like, how do you come up with clever ways to do that? Take a pint, buy a pint, whatever. There's all kinds of clever ways. I think that, just also incentivizing your staff. Sometimes, they're there to make money, and they're not gonna, take more money home than anybody else. In that night, like, they're not gonna break you. But, like, if you do have a goal, like if you want a mug club, encourage that membership. Like, hey, $10 for every mug club sold, this week, and then you tally them up at the end of the week, and maybe they walk home with an extra $100 in their pocket. But you also just got, maybe 20, 30, $250 memberships to your mug club. Like that those numbers work out fine. I promise you. And so just thinking of creative ways to incentivize your staff. It makes it fun. It makes it, competitive. And that's what I go back to, hiring the right people too. Make sure you don't have a staff that it doesn't want to compete a little bit, and encourage that. And you can, have fun, get a tally board going, and, the well, and just make sure everybody's aware of who's winning what, or give them a $10 gift card to, a McDonald's or whatever it is. Like, just encourage them, have fun. Like, and I think that's the thing, is just be bold. And, I don't know. Do you know who Bob Ross is, the painter guy?
Yeah. Happy little trees.
Happy little trees, happy little mistakes, right? Like, let's just keep trying until we figure something out. Don't be too afraid to not try.
Man, I would subscribe to the tap room that you opened up. Like, the second pint rule thing, or the second beer rule, depending on where you're buying the drink. Like, if a server came over to me and they're like, would you like me to get you another one before your meal came out? That takes the pressure off of me, because I'm almost sat there going, did I drink that first one too quick? It's like, oh, they've come over. That must be cool. I can have my second one now. It's fine. And then the upsell thing afterwards as well. I love that. That someone would have taken the care to go, so you really enjoyed that. By the way, we've got a couple of others. Do you want to give that a go? Because you've had a sit-down meal with us, we're going to give you 10% off that 4-pack as well. Like, that is service. And on top, before I let you chime back in, because I saw you open your mouth, but I've got to get this one out before I finish. I know of some places and spoken to breweries, that idea of they have a 1 free round deal, like kind of offer with their bar staff. So each team member, if they're working 5 days out of a week, can offer 1 free round at a point of their choosing. I've seen it in other retail shops and stuff as well. But if that member of the bar staff is going, oh, that couple, they're having a really lovely meal, they're obviously really enjoying their company, you can just come over and go, guys, you're having a great time. This is from our brewery to you. It's on the house because we just really love what you're doing and really appreciate you here. That best service ever. People will wax lyrical for years to come. I think it's a great piece as well.
It's 100%. I think that's connecting with your consumers.
Mm,
And I would encourage and back up what you say. Empower your staff to be able to make those judgment calls. It empowers them to really make them feel like they're more than just a peon just walking around taking orders, right? And I'm totally against order takers. Like, let's, you know, you've had Jeremy Storton on here. He says, be the guide, not the gopher. That's his saying. I'll take it
mhm,
from him. Shout out to him. And but I think you really empower your staff. And I come to, like, another part of me is like accounting for you know, every ounce of beer that comes out should be accounted for. That's another strict thing that I have. But I think as long as you tell your staff, like, listen, let's make sure we count for the samples, but also if there's somebody that's, you know, spilt a beer or whatever, like, you're gonna have this segment of ring ups that are, that are gonna be just called for, right? No charges. And so, like, you get two of those per shift. What do you do with them? Do
mm.
you help the people that are having a great time because they're going to become big fans of you if you hook them up with a little bit to what you said. So that's a great idea. I mean, to back up there, empower your staff.
Mm. And it's on the other side as well. Like I think one of the worst things is where I've had friends. I don't pick beers I don't like. I'm far more educated than that. But I've had friends that go, "Oh, that sounds cool," and they'll get a pint and they'll take it away and they go, "Oh, I do not like this at all." And they take it back to the bar and go, "I'm really sorry. Like this isn't what I was expecting. I'm sure it's lovely, but I really don't like it." And they go, "No problem. What pint would you like?" And that's another like £6, £7. And you're like, "Dude, really? Like, did you have to
Yeah,
charge them the 6, 7?" Like, I think that would have been another great use of that kind of two free drinks kind of vibe to just keep the experience going, man.
totally. I think it's the product. If you're, it's the if you are brewing it and it's going directly from your brew house to your tap room, it's going to be fairly low cost, right? Like,
Mhm.
don't let that become a barrier to a great customer. I will say that. Like, mark that up as a marketing cost. Whatever you got to mark it up as, like, don't be afraid to give a little bit of beer. Just account
Mm.
for it so you know at the end of the quarter, whatever, how many beers you did give away or whatever it is. And maybe you have to tighten that up a little bit, whatever. But you can make those calls educationally. You can make those calls based off the data, but use that as a marketing arm for you. Just, yeah, don't make people mad over 40, 50 cents, whatever it is. I
Yeah,
promise you, you'd pay for a better, you pay more in marketing than 40, 50 cents for a good customer. So don't let that become a barrier.
for sure. Okay, Dan, we've got like 10 minutes left here, so let's get in some really quick fire helpful things that anyone who's taken the time to listen to this can take away. Like, what are your like top quick high impact changes breweries can do to increase footfall? Yeah, what can they take away today and go, right, this is pretty easy to do, let's try it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit of a summary of what we've talked about. One is, make sure that you have a calendar. So you got your events out there. Update your online presence. Please make sure that your hours of operation are accurate. Wherever that is. For us, it's Google, your Meta, your Facebook, your Instagram. It's the Yelps of the world. It's the any kind of beer application, whatever it is. Like, just make sure all of that information is updated and accurate. Designate someone on your team to make sure that's updated at least once a quarter. What I say is, like, the photos and whatever imagery is relative to the season. So if I'm looking and it's winter here, and it's like, and I go look and it's a sunny day on a patio, it's like, yeah, well, do they heat that patio? Like, it would be kind of nice to be on a patio, but, like, I don't know if they heat it or not. So make sure that patio is reflective of the current situation. Maybe the patio's closed. Now all of a sudden I'm going to this brewery and the patio's closed, and I thought they would have heaters just because it's a great patio. So make sure all that information's up to date. And I would say quarterly is what it is, the imagery and stuff like that, so people know what they're going to get themselves into. Let's see here. Increase footfall. I think, just being engaged on social media. I think that, one thing that has shifted, and my generation, I say my generation, my age is probably at the top end of this. The photos of the beer, the photos of the chicken fingers, like they are no longer good enough to promote online. So, that's not going to encourage me. That doesn't excite me to go to your brewery. Like, I've seen a million photos of beers, and probably every way any beer influencer could take a photo, I've seen it, and I've probably done it myself too, right? So, I think video is king nowadays. Don't be afraid to get video. What I talked about earlier is designate someone on your team just to be the voice of your brand, or spread the love and get people involved. Um, you make a new beer, get the video of the brewer just talking about the product. It's gonna get people encouraged to go in there and try it out. So I would say video is now king. Obviously, we're here on video, Tim. We know this a little bit. Um, I think consistency for events is another one. Make sure that people are aware of what's going on in your tap room at all times. They're going to trust it. Um, Staff education. People are going to want to come in there and want to learn something. So empower your staff. Make sure that they have the right tools for them to learn something. Put together a nice little tasting program or a pre-shift program for them to come in and just talk about the beer. Hey, what did you taste? What did you taste? What would this go great with? Just different things that they can learn and help take to the tables. Um, Shoot, I'm trying to think what else, man. Make sure you have a good website. There's too many easy ways to make a good website nowadays. Um, Menus, I think, are great. They can be tough to keep updated. So if you do have a menu, whatever menu platform you're using, make sure it's updated so you're not, false advertising, people coming in, things like that. Um, and create just unique events, I think, that engage with your community. And I think authentically too, like I look around for what I was talking about, our local coffee house. We don't have a brewery, just real close in my township here, but I know that a brewery would do well here because I know that there's, the after school teams that, the parents and the kids, they want to go someplace and they want to have a place to just, you know, let go and have fun and, after the ball game, go connect. So there's just different ways to be a part of that community and make sure that you're reaching out to your local associations and saying, hey, like, how can I get in more places? Your neighborhood associations, your town associations, those different platforms, because they will help you become a part of that community if you're struggling to do it. And also reach out to your local businesses. This is a good one. I know we're past the holidays, right? But go out, do a little foot, marketing, door to door knocking, and just say, hey, if you're looking to have a holiday event, we would love to hook you up. Come to our place. We got a little private event space. I think events are great profit drivers for breweries because they're extra money, something that you're not depending on just a day to day business. So go do that foot to door to door knocking, and just welcome people into your door. They want to have a spot to have a holiday party, or even maybe if you just want to say, hey, I'd like to welcome you guys in. We'll give you 10% off, for a happy hour, whatever it is. Just come over and check us out. Like, go, like, it's going to take you getting out of your four walls to get people in, and don't be afraid to do that.
Wow. That's a lot of value right there, man. That was just the tick box.
Was I rambling?
No, not at all. Like, everything was awesome. That was so cool. And I hope that people can now listen back to this time and time again to make sure they tick all those boxes. I love the outreach suggestion at the end as well, dude. That's fantastic. So let's wrap this up, Dan. Let's say anything you see on the horizon, rub your crystal ball and look into the future for us. What do people need to be aware of in terms of like what they're doing with the tap rooms, with their experience, what's coming down the line that people need to be prepared for?
More beverage options, not just beer, not just alcohol. THC is starting to become a big thing. I don't know what it's going on over there in your
Not
world.
over here yet. It's not allowed. It's naughty.
It's naughty still out there. It's going to boom for us this year in America. I fully believe that, and make sure it's responsible. I will say that people can get in; they're just not used to it. They don't know how to interact with it. Um, But I think what we talked about earlier, there's ways to provide these options. I think like slushy machines. I've seen a lot of breweries doing like seltzer slushies as
Mm,
seltzer as the base, and they're just putting in different fruit flavors and making different fun beverages. Um, Great profit driver. You got to remember half that's ice and water. So think about what you're diluting in there, and you're probably selling it for more money than what just a pint of a seltzer is, right?
mm,
I think it's a great something for somebody to look into. Um, for us, it's food. Make sure you have a food program. It doesn't have to be big. Put a panini machine behind your bar if you don't have a great big space. Make a couple different sandwiches. Just make grilled cheese. Hone in
mm.
on just lock in on grilled cheese if that's all you want to make. But have food. Make sure you have food. Um, make sure people can know that you can do events at your spot and support those. If you have the space, make sure that you're advertising that, because like I said earlier, the breweries that I've talked to recently, it's the birthday parties, it's the graduation parties, these are becoming communal meeting spots nowadays. So make sure that you have good offerings for everybody.
Fantastic. Oh, Dan, dude, this has been great. Like, there's been so much value that has been shared, man. I really, really appreciate you taking the time, going into such detail as well. Like, I hope people take stuff away. So, where can people find you? If they go, Dan was dropping value like there's no tomorrow. I got to pick this guy's brains more. I need to know what's going on because I got a couple of things I want to talk to him about. I've got an old slushy machine. I could whip that out, or maybe I could make a grilled cheese. That seems legit. Let's ask him about about the details. Where can they find you, my man?
So first and foremost, if you're making grilled cheese, I need to sample it. I will give my opinion on it, make sure it's a good grilled cheese. Um, by the way, one of my favorite grilled cheese is from a brewery, so there's high standards there. But no, LinkedIn is a great spot for me. Dan Hornbrook. I mean, if you know how to work LinkedIn, you know how to find me. But also Instagram. You get my old DJ name, the Dirty Dan One, the number one. So I've been riding with that since Instagram came out. So again, the Dirty Dan One, if you want to hit me on Instagram. But LinkedIn's a great spot to go on there. And Tim, I can't thank you for bringing me on, and also for what you're doing. I know you're a ton of help to a lot of people, and I think that in this community, it takes not just just one voice, but a lot of voices. And I think that if you can take little pieces, from you and from what you're doing, and I know you've been an open source for people to reach out and talk to. So thank you for doing what you're doing and just continuing to grow this industry, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm most passionate about. I know you're passionate about it. We just want to help these independent business owners keep growing.
Dude, thank you so much. And if for whatever reason you've only just found this episode and you like the value that has been provided to you today, you can contact me via Branding for Breweries on Instagram. You can find the Brand Weaver online and on LinkedIn. But again, guys and girls, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your ears and your attention. You rock. Speak to you later, people. Rock on.